What's up, everybody? We are live here from Cafe Kubal, 343 Fayette Street in Manliius, New York. I am here with my good friend and very successful coach and awesome human being, Jason Leone, Oswego State Lakers men's basketball head coach. Mr. Leone, how you doing?
Doing great, Dan. Great. Glad to be back here. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to be here. And as you know, the Wake Up Call logo that was redesigned and upgraded here during the pandemic is a sun rising out of a coffee cup, and it's always a perfect thing to wear when you come to Cafe Kubal. So,
hey, it's you're foreshadowing some sun hopefully coming into our life around here. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon, but
we got the coffee. Now we just, we need the sun. So happy to be here with you. So happy to be inside of Cafe Kubal. You know that they are our proud studio partner exclusively here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with locations on 3501 James Street in Syracuse, 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, as well as inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at their drive-through location at the Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, and of course here in Manlius, right here in the giant behemoth of a brown-striped building with an expanded parking lot that's now here for you on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius. And Jason got here before me. He already jumped into the chocolate chip banana bread, which is my favorite here.
Yeah, and I saved you a piece too.
You did. Yeah, you saved me a good chunk of it here, so I appreciate it very much. So sharing in, you know what, in 2022, if we can bring anything over from the nostalgic world, it's sharing and remembering your neighbor.
That's right. I would agree with that, Dan.
So we're in the midst of the season. We're getting set to pack the Zeal. Bring me into, we talked early on in the season, and now we have an opportunity to talk through the throngs of the season. So what have you taken away from this year?
Well, first off, as we talked back in the fall, it's just been great to be back coaching again. I think every person involved with athletics probably can tell you a very unique story about their year away or their condensed year that they had last year. Our unique story is that we were not able to do any practices with our guys or have much contact with them, if any at all. So getting back this year, I promised myself, first and foremost, I was just going to really try to enjoy being back doing what I love to do, and I implored our team to do the same, and I thought it gave us great perspective on, remembering how much you love what you do, and then on top of that, we've had our best regular season in school history, 23 wins, currently ranked number 17 in the country in Division III. And we clinched the number 1 seed a week ago for our conference tournament, which means we get to host the conference tournament, the Final Four of the conference tournament that's starting this Friday in our home gymnasium up at Laker Hall on SUNY Oswego's campus in the Max Zeal Gymnasium. So there'll be a semifinal game at 5:30, and then we will play at 7:30 against the winner of the 4-5 matchup, which is New Paltz and Portland. So, and then the championship follows the next day at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah. So this is what we play for. In Division III, it's very hard to get an at-large bid for the tournament. So the majority of the bids go to conference winners. So there's a lot of pressure that we need to embrace, but I wouldn't want to do it with any other group but this one.
And you had said to me that, we've talked about this before, that if for people that think, oh my gosh, Division I men's basketball is so big, there's 300 plus teams and whatnot. We talked about D3, and of all the conferences and everything that you have, it's even larger and even more confusing for the spots you're fighting for and the at-large. And just to tell people to kind of, get everybody back on their memory of this, especially maybe some people who don't know that there's 400 some odd schools fighting for a very small amount of spots.
416, and then there's 20 at-large bids, and then there's 20 at-large bids, and then there's that adds up to 44 automatic qualifiers to add up to 64 teams. So and there's no ESPN, there's no eyeball test, we don't have all the metrics that Division I uses. So,
yeah,
it's an imperfect system, but I think it's a good system based on, what our model is in Division III. So, we go a lot on strength of schedule. We go a lot on wins versus other regionally ranked opponents. So what happens in Division III is every week there's regional committees that rank teams within the regions. And then there's a chair of each region that goes on and votes at the national level. And that's how we comprise our tournament. So it's it's imperfect, but the best we can do given the lack of play around the country. So, you don't have at our level relative of Villanova going out to play UCLA. Like we don't have these opportunities to cross regions all the time just because of financial constraints and obviously COVID going on now. So it makes it a little difficult to select the tournament. But I'm very thankful. About 15 years ago, our tournament was only 40-something teams large. So having 64 teams is a great thing, and we're proud to be in the mix.
And to have the number of teams that you have now and to continue to grow and to blossom and to have that opportunity, I mean, there is an evolution of sorts, and everybody pays attention to D1. But like you said, to have more spots open, to have more opportunity for Division III, it shows that obviously there's a lot of talent, and no matter how, and I do agree with this, no matter how big you make a tournament, you're still going to leave somebody out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something to be said about, like you said, it's not a perfect system, but at least there's an advancement of it, and there's a care and concern for it because it has evolved.
Yeah, and there's things that coaches can do to help their cause. We do get a chance to schedule non-conference games, so if your program is in a situation like ours has been where kind of the standard is to try to make the NCAA tournament every year, then you're going to schedule a little bit tougher during your non-league schedule. If you're in a place where maybe you're just rebuilding or your league is traditionally just a one-bid league, you may schedule a little bit different, So we do have a little bit of an opportunity to help ourselves. But look, here's at the end of the day, part of our NCAA tournament is we've got to win 2 games at home this weekend.
Yeah.
So, in essence, you can sit there and complain or cry about, maybe where you're ranked or where you deserve to be in. And I agree with what you said. You can raise the number of teams in any tournament at any level, and there's always going to be somebody that thinks they got the short end of the stick being left out. And that's part of what makes tournaments at the end of seasons so much fun, whether it's the football playoff or basketball, is somebody gets left out, and that's what the fans enjoy, and coaches maybe don't enjoy it that much, but the fans certainly enjoy the banter and talking about it. And even at our level, you see now we've got bracketologists, and I follow on Twitter, and there's some really, really neat stuff going on to promote Division III basketball and end of the season stuff.
Why do you think that people are starting to care? Do you think they're starting to care more about Division III, to have bracketology, to have an expansion of the number of teams that have gotten in as there's been this evolution? Why do you think that this is happening? Because when I went to school from 2003 to 2007, and I was at a D3 school, that there really was nothing there. I mean, I felt like we were trying to put something out there that wasn't out there. We were trying to build a brand, and I didn't necessarily feel the help of the NCAA to get that out there. Why do you feel that now people are saying, hey, this is important? Is it because, is it a more recent, these last couple of years, that, hey, maybe people are just learning to appreciate things more, appreciate their opportunities? Or is it something that you have seen grown even beyond, the pandemic times? Why care so much about D3? You do, I do, but why are other people starting to spend more time with it?
Well, I think there's a lot more platforms to be used. I think social media has probably really helped. The folks at d3hoops.com have really expanded their coverage, and they have people from other regions that help them. Because I think they're generally located in the Mid-Atlantic region, but they have people that they rely on in other regions to help them cover basketball all across the country. I think the NCAA has helped by expanding our tournament, which gets more people involved. And then I think you see more Division III game. I think live streaming of games allows more people to watch Division III basketball. And anytime you have more people watching and pay attention, you're going to have more interest. So I don't know if there's probably other things that I'm forgetting, but those are 3 or 4 things that I think have really helped our game. And then I think the people that have stayed and tried to do things for Division III, like bracketology and the write-ups that we get within D3 Hoops, I think they're people that are former Division III players or coaches that really believe in the model, and they want to do things to help promote the game.
And to see what this has become. I mean, you've been with Oswego for such a long time, and you've believed in this program and what you could do with this program. Like you said, and I know you've given credit to who's come before you, and I respect that completely, and I know you're a humble guy. From my point of view, when you say Oswego State, our metric is make the NCAA tournament. We have to get to the NCAA tournament. That, to me, is something that you have developed. Your coaching staff and the student athletes you've developed a system, but I give you credit because it's a culture. You didn't have a good team. You didn't fall into something. You didn't recruit the right guy or the right couple guys and it worked out for a year or two. You've built sustainable success, and it's not an easy thing to do. So how do you build, in your opinion, from working as a coach, from not the bird's eye view, but the right there on the sideline view, how do you build sustainable success?
Well, first, I think this job is a very unique job for me because I grew up in the area. And if you follow Oswego State athletics at all, you can see one of the common denominators with our coaching staff, with not everybody that works in our department, but a lot of people are people that have some sort of a tie to Central New York. So right away, because of my ties here, I think it really helped us. My learning curve with recruiting in a SUNY school was maybe a little bit quicker because of my ties in the area here. We got off to a good start attracting the right people that were in a 2-hour radius of our campus.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I look back and think really helped. The second thing was we developed a model where we incorporated, and it was before the transfer portal, but we incorporated 1 or 2 transfers on our roster that would come from higher level schools. I think that really helped us to move the program from maybe a team that could make the NCAA tournament to some. I've had some teams that have been able to win a couple games in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So I think that model ended up working for us. And I think the third thing is we've had, some really good support from the right people on our campus. It's not the highest level of support from a resource perspective in our conference, but it's enough where if I really need something, I have people I can go to and say, look, this is really important to me. I think this can help take us to another level. And I've been fortunate that people have listened and wanted to have this nationally competitive program.
And that's the thing is the fact that, like you said, support, and that it comes from multiple people, that you got to have the right AD, you have to have the right leadership, you have to have people that believe in what you're doing. What can you say about the team at Oswego State and about who you've had around you that you think specifically has helped you to excel your program?
Well, obviously you have to rely on an athletic director, right? Those are the people that hire you, and then if you really need something, you go to your direct report, and that's why I directly report to Tim Hale. Gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to come back and coach in my hometown. And although I only got to work with Tim for 1 year, he really got me off to a good start there. Adam Stockwell, my immediate predecessor, and Kevin Broderick, the 2 guys that came before me. The program was in a good spot, and they were both very influential in helping me get the job. Adam's now the head coach at Hamilton, and Kevin moved on to Nazareth College, where he went to school. Sue Viscomi, who is my most recent athletic director, who just retired at the beginning of the pandemic. She continues to remain a very close friend, and she really spent a lot of time taking me from a professionalism standpoint to another level in my career. And then I just started working for a new AD this year, Wendy McManus, and Wendy came from a conference that's one of the best conferences in the country in Division III basketball, the CCIW. So she has a really good vision for what a high-level Division III program looks like, and she's also has some experience at the Division II level. So she's got some really good ideas that, although she's less than a year into her tenure here, I feel real confident she's going to get some good things done for us to help take our facilities and our resources to a different level. So So that's a big part of it. And then I have one assistant coach, Bill Farden, who's been with the program over 20 years. He's been just an incredible mentor to me. He's a volunteer assistant, but he coached high school basketball in the area at Oswego High School for a long time. He's been with our program, so he's provided great continuity. And for me, I got the job in my mid-30s. Bill was a really good mentor for me because he helped me with some of the finer points of becoming a more measured and polished head coach. So I really rely on him to this day quite a bit. And those are just some of the people. I probably am leaving some other people out, not intentionally, but those are some people that come to mind that have really helped us.
We look at the SUNYAC and where you're at right now, being the number 1 seed, and in conference, 1 loss, 23-2 overall, 17-1. I know that I can talk about your 17 wins, and I know you're going to tell me about that one game that you lost. What did you learn about that game, the only game to take a loss in the SUNYAC?
I wouldn't. I mean, it's my first team at Oswego. We went undefeated. We went 21-0, counting the conference tournament through the season, and it was an incredible run. I just said, I can't believe this happened, And I thought at times this year that we very easily, this team could have done that, but New Paltz, the game that we lost, they played well. They played really tough,
Yeah.
So I was, I think it was more about kind of what they did. I don't want to discredit anything that they did because of, our guys not playing well or whatever. I mean, we certainly had some plays we would like to have back, but I thought New Paltz played a really inspired game, and we had beaten them a couple weeks prior by 30, I think, and came down and didn't have one of our best nights, and they caught us on the right night, and because they played well, we ended up with a loss.
It was only a 1-point loss, 64-63 in New Paltz on the road. That's the only one that you have. In 18 games was 1 point to keep you from being undefeated there. What has this team shown you about their resolve, their determination, responding to adversity? It hasn't been an easy season. Nothing just comes to you easily. I think, teams like the Patriots make it look like it's a cakewalk. But when you're 17-1 and you're the number 1 seed going into the tournament, there's still adversity. There's still a need to focus. There's still teamwork. There's still a need to be humble and to share and to care about one another. There's still a need to watch film. There's a need to get into the weight room. There's a need to be in the gym. There's a need for you to adjust a few things. How do you get to the record that you have? How did this team get here? And what was the adversity that maybe you saw?
Well, I don't know if I call it adversity, but one of the challenges that we had this year was we were winning games at one point and we weren't playing well. So it was kind of a good lesson to talk to the players about, where you can sometimes play poorly and win. Sometimes you can play really well and lose.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of one of those teachable moments. We had played a couple games in the middle, at the end of January, where I didn't think we played our best basketball, but we still won. And then little by little, what happens is it's only human nature says you're going to look at results and say, okay, we're winning, so we must be playing well. As a coach, it was my point to step in. You got to be very measured with the conversations, because if you're winning, you have their attention, but you don't want the players to think, well, this guy's being negative and we're still winning, because today's athlete, they can get a little, cantankerous if you say the wrong thing on the wrong day. So we tried to talk in a very simplistic way about, look, we're going to show you some film. These are some things that we were doing early in the year that we're not, and I think the reason is we are winning and you're just looking at the results. So I think staying focused on process and everyday habits has always been something I've preached to our teams. Keeping things simple, I think, is really important, especially the deeper you get into the season. And thankfully, the guys have listened.
Yeah.
There was a couple weeks where I didn't think they were listening to me, but that's really helped us. So I think the only true adversity we've had has been just keeping their attention through a long winning streak. That's a little bit of a challenge, but every coach would tell you that's a good problem to have, and I'm no different.
And you said that this current student athlete that we have can be a little cantankerous depending on the day and the time and whatnot. How have you seen the student athlete change, and how have you grown as a coach to speak to today's student athlete?
Well, I think, today, a couple things. I think there's a lot more people involved with kids' development today than there was maybe 20-something years ago when I started. It used to just be when I was starting that you dealt with a high school coach and the parents or maybe one or the other. And now AAU, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that's a big part of things. A lot of the players have these individual trainers now. They have a lot more ways to become better players now than when I played, but that also provides a lot more opinions.
Yeah.
So recruiting kids has become, I wouldn't say harder, but it's just different. And then when you get players on your campus, coaching them through their freshman year, when you have a good program and they're not playing a lot, that is a very challenging thing. So, we kind of spend a lot of time, and I'm not saying our model is correct, and I don't think I'm any different than anybody else, but we spend a lot of time trying the best we can to set a stage for the worst case scenario. Okay, how are you going to, during recruiting, how are you going to handle if you're not playing right away? Okay, because to me, it's a 4-year commitment. That's part of the great thing about Division III is I get to coach guys for 4 years.
Yeah.
They're not going pro. Some of them might after the 4 years are over, but we're not losing kids to hardship. So all those things go into play. I also think coaching has changed. You got to remember when I first got into coaching in the late 90s, Bobby Knight was still that model of coaching, the authoritarian model was still how people thought of coaches.
Yeah.
And
how many years did he get to throw a chair without being yelled at? You know what I mean? Without being reprimanded.
I was a big Bobby Knight fan. I mean, you just watch, if you ever watched him at a clinic and watched his teams play, he was an unbelievable coach. And quite frankly, a lot of the stuff that went on probably wasn't publicized because there wasn't the avenue to publicize it. The social media and the internet and all that stuff. So then we changed into this more cooperative style of leadership, which is where we're at now. So, that's something that I think coaches have found, you can still win without being as commanding with your voice and my way or the highway stuff. So it's been twofold. Players have changed, but also coaches have changed too.
Yeah, and I think in this evolution, like you said, in D3, I mean, you're going to have these guys for the most part, but in a world where transferring seems so easy, and when adversity strikes, to just jump ship, or like you said, hey, I'm on a good team, I'm not playing, I have to wait my turn. I never understood how Tony Bennett did it in Virginia. And you get to know him and you think, okay, he seems to have a great personality, seems to be a humble guy, seems to be a guy who is who he says he is. And I've loved talking to him when I've had the opportunity to be around Tony Bennett. And he would bring a guy in, especially his bigs, and they would wait 2 years. He'd bring him in and they would say, okay, you know what? I'm behind this guy. I think I'm good, but he's been here. I'm going to wait. And then as a junior, I'm going to come up. And they would stay and they would wait for that to happen. And it's something that you don't really see anymore, and not consistently. So I think it says a lot when you watch a player develop and you keep a player developing. So we'll talk about player development and so much more right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We appreciate you being here, and we, of course, are inside of Cafe Kubal. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is inside of the Cafe Kubal studios every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Now we are physically inside of Cafe Kubal this morning, hanging out with you on 343 Fayette Street, Manliius, New York. Come grab a cup of coffee, of course, watch the show, and always support CNY, support local, and support Oswego State. Jason and I will be back right after this.
I love talking hoops.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. And a welcome back here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're here at Cafe Kubal, and you know that the Cafe Kubal studios are with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You're watching on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and of course listening on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT and on WakeUpCallDT.com. So plenty of ways to connect with the show. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate you hanging out at Cafe Kubal and supporting local. 343 Fayette Street in Manliius, New York. Supporting local goes beyond Cafe Kubal. It also goes to Packing the Zeal coming up here and heading out to Oswego State. We're here with Oswego State Lakers men's basketball head coach Jason Leone, who is no stranger to the broadcast. And I always love talking with you, not just about basketball, but about a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's been awesome. We've had some great conversations over the years, So, every time we get together, I look forward to it because you do such a great job just incorporating all different types of things into the interviews we do.
And I appreciate that, and I love, and we spent a lot of time speaking about college basketball, about your team, about the evolution. We're going to go to a few different things, but before the break, I had stated that, kind of dealing with today's world of transferring and guys that, like you said, looking, for you, even before the transfer portal came out, to look to bring some guys in and to have that be a part of your program. Maybe somebody at the D2 level's not happy, whatever it may be. How do you navigate when you have a team that is strong, you have a team that's consistently been good and not occasionally great, that guys do have to wait their turn? How do you manage telling somebody, hey, I recruited you, I want you here, but you're going to have to work for it? Because in today's day and age, if a guy has to wait a little bit of time, sometimes they jump ship.
That's a great question, and that's probably the hardest thing about my job. I think it starts, Dan, with the recruiting process. It's not just, and we do this, having a conversation with players about, look at everybody, and I enjoy when players tell me, well, I'm going to come beat this guy out that's in front of me. But I say, okay, well, what if that doesn't happen? Let's talk about the worst case scenario. Yep. And if you look at, we publicize a national D3 top 25. If you even look at the top 50 schools in the country, anybody that has any type of success at our level, one of the common denominators is junior, senior presence on that team. Yeah. You may have one freshman that's a special freshman and we have a freshman that starts for us this year at 23-2. That's been the first time that's happened in my 10 years. So, but I think having that initial conversation about what the worst case scenario has, and me saying, okay, let's say you don't get into games, or you And it's in front of the parents. How are we going to handle this? Like, I need to know that right off, because it does the player no good, the family no good, and our program no good if we have players going in and out. I'm not telling you that we've batted 1,000 with those conversations, but I think the honesty, the straightforwardness, I think is critical. The other thing is, you look for certain things. It's not like this is a perfect way of doing it, but you watch if there's a guy that maybe wasn't the best player on his high school team, he's used to maybe taking a subsidiary role within his team and is still happy. Those are a lot of times good guys to be able to recruit. There's a lot of really good players that maybe play for AA high schools that maybe are really good guys for us, but they weren't the best guy in high school. So they have more of an opportunity of being a valuable member of a team without maybe scoring all the time, or without maybe playing all the time, or without having plays called for them all the time. So you look for certain things, and again, I want to reiterate, it's not like I'm the only one that does this, but those are some things that have worked for us. And then I think the time spent with freshmen is critical. I think it's real easy to fall into the trap during the season for a head coach where you kind of start, especially towards the end of the year, you get into crunch time where you really want to win games in February, and you start paying just a little bit more attention to the guys that are getting into the games and not to the guys that aren't. And I'm not telling you I'm great at it, but I've tried to really take time to spend with these guys. And it could be something as simple as pulling a guy after practice or before practice, or having a scheduled meeting and say, hey, how you doing? Like, how is this going? I know this is a change for you. I've been through it before. I've had a unique experience where in college I was the worst player on my one college team, and then I was the best player on the second school I was at. So I've lived through a transfer before. I've lived through being the best guy, being the worst guy. I think that's helped me in coaching. So those are a few of the things that I think have helped me navigate through some of those things.
And I think that's great in the personal experience, of course. Nothing can substitute the fact that you've been through it. You've been through transferring. You've been through being on a team where you said, the worst guy on the team to the best guy on the team. What did you learn from that experience of transferring, of going somewhere, saying this is going to be my home, and then saying, you know what, I think it'd be better suited being over here, and then going from being the guy with the spotlight and being the guy that didn't have the spotlight? You've seen both ends of the spectrum, so what did that teach you?
Well, it was a humbling experience. I went through pretty much, all through high school. I started for all 3 years I was on varsity, scored a lot of points. But at that point in time, I didn't have a lot of experience. There wasn't AAU really, so I wasn't going outside of this home area and playing. So I wasn't exposed, and I didn't really understand there's a whole wide world of great players out there. I thought I was pretty special because I was good in this small area of Syracuse, New York. So when I left here, I got a real quick wake-up call, no pun intended, with, this is, you're not that good, and you got to put time in. And I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left my school because I was cut from the team. I was in a non-scholarship Division I, and, it's a new coach, and rightfully so. I wasn't good enough, and I had to decide, because I loved the first school I was at, did I want to stay and complete my degree, or do I want to play? And I wanted to play. That was important to me. I was lucky I found a school that wanted me. But yeah, there was a lot of really good life lessons that I now take with me into mentoring young adults.
Yeah, and I think that that's an awesome thing that you've had that experience and that you've been through it, that you can talk to them about the trenches because you fought your own battles. And I think that that's huge for you. 23-2 season, you made mention of it before. There's more work to be done. There's more work to be had here. But of all the seasons that you've had and of everything you've been through to this point, where do you put this season? And I know that when I ask you this question, I go back to a snowy day in one of my first home studios when we talked, and I asked you about it. You said, at the end of the season, I'll think about it. And at the end of the season, I'll appreciate the wins and the whatnot. But 25 games in, how do you view this season so far?
Well, I'm pretty consistent from you and I knowing each other for so long, Dan. So I'm not going to rank or do anything, talk about this season because it's still going on, So, but Here's what I can tell you about this season. Again, it's memorable because of what we went through last year without being able to play and coach. So that's something that I every day when I walk into the gym, I say a little something to myself. Just remember, we weren't doing this last year. The second thing is, and this isn't going to change no matter what, is how great this team has been in terms of the togetherness and how much time they've put in. This has been a team that's been one of my harder working teams. And, today we have a day off, and I'd be shocked out of 21 guys in the team if we don't have at least 15 guys in the gym just getting some sort of work in today, And then my freshmen, a lot of them that aren't getting a chance to play this year, those guys are in there working because they know they've got work to do to be able to get on the court for next year. So it's really been a positive environment of player development, personal development, and then just the togetherness. We've had a lot of memorable moments this year. So, but not going to say where this team ranks because we're still going. The unfortunate thing, or fortunate thing, depending on how you look at it, is the next time we lose, we could be done for good. So it's a sort of pressure that you've got to embrace. I don't think you play well unless you embrace it. You've got to stay very consistent in your habits. I think winning at this time of year is about simplicity.
Yeah.
It's about staying just true to your everyday habits, and that's something that this team's done very well. And I'm hopeful they'll do this great this week. And we had a great practice last night, and day off today. I know we'll have 2 great practices leading up to our game Friday.
You said something that not just in basketball, but in life in general, staying consistently who you are, knowing who you are, and having that belief. Like you said, you win now by being simple, by being consistent, by knowing who you are, knowing what you can do. And I think that's really in anything in life, is when you're shaken, right? When you have a loss, when you endured that loss that you had in conference, when something doesn't go your way in any part of life, that how do you get up the next day and still believe in yourself? How do you keep going? And I guess that's a question that I pose to you, is when you don't feel like you had your best coaching night, when you don't feel like you had your best practice, when you don't feel like you did everything you needed to do as a dad, and you think you could have been better, you think I could have done this more for Amber, or I could have made more of an effort here as a friend. When you feel like you haven't done your best, or when the world tells you haven't, how do you get up in the morning and say, I know myself, I know who I am, I know what I can do, and I'm going to go do it again?
Well, I think one of the things is the way this sounds crazy, but the way you walk into a room, the way you walk into practice every day, or a team meeting, or the way you walk into your house after a long day at work or practice, Nick Saban has a thing, if you ever watch any of his videos, I know you're a big Dabble guy, and it's not that I'm not, but I walk in and he's got some great edits. He'll walk through with stretching lines and what are you selling today, positive or negative, and there's a lot, body language and communication is a big part of having a good team and having a good program. And I think the way you walk into a room, the way you handle yourself, you can be torn up inside, but when you're in charge, or if you're in a leadership position, the way you walk in the room, not everybody needs to know on your face the way things are going, and it's something else that happened that day. So I think that's something that was not a strength of mine probably 5 or 7 years ago, and I don't know if it is now, but it's something I definitely think about. I have my teams, at times when I want to be a more authoritarian style coach, and there was a time last week, actually a week ago, where I had to, for the first time, I had to kind of yell and scream at our team a little bit, and we had a really bad practice last Monday, and there was a time where the team needed a little bit of a kick in the pants, and we did something uncharacteristic, and I had to be that way and be negative. But those are short-term things that work, So after losses, I think the less you say sometimes is more, and you just get back to work. When you win, you have a little bit more of an opportunity, I think, if you wanted to be a little bit more negative, because you have their attention because they're feeling good about wins. But I think one of the things I've done over the years is I've tried to go to certain symposiums and almost coaching clinics on how to communicate with today's athlete. I think I mentioned on your show before, it's a unique job because I keep getting older every year, but the kids I work with stay the same age.
Yeah.
So that requires some attention from a communication standpoint. So those are some things that, as I get a little bit older, I think about a little bit more when it comes to dealing with adversity and dealing with bad days.
And I think it's imperative. I mean, you, from a leadership standpoint, me running a show, running a company as a president and CEO, when you're a leader in your life, you have to find a way to keep going.
Right.
And I think for you and so many coaches over the country, it was so hard to find a way to keep going the past 2 years. And like you said, to not play, to have it taken away from you. I mean, you're 23-2, which is, in any season, fantastic. But I'm looking at this and going, you got to play 25 games. After everything got taken away, you've had a normal year. And now there's a normal conference tournament and, God willing, a normal NCAA tournament. What does that mean to you after everything you've been through, after everything these kids been through, after everything we've had to endure as people on this planet, that we're sitting here today and I'm going, hey, remember when we talked a few months ago and you said, I hope everything gets off, I hope everything works out. And here we are 25 games in, and yeah, you're 23-2, but I would say that any coach in the country, even if they were 0-25, would be like, man, it feels so good to just get back out there.
Yeah, I just feel fortunate. You feel fortunate. I don't think everything was exactly perfect or, and went according to plan, but we had obviously the 3 to 4 week stretch with Omicron that, put us at risk where we were missing some players from time to time. But, I'm very cautious to talk about who we had and didn't have at certain times because everybody has gone through that. And many teams much more than we have. I think you have a couple options when it has come to protocols and things that have gone on with COVID. You can either choose to focus on what you don't have or focus on what you do have. I also think when you're in front of your team, you've got to prepare and alert them the best you can. This is what can happen. And this is what I think the best options are, and then they have to make personal decisions. Well, for instance, if we had, a mandate that the kids on our campus had to get the vaccination in order to play, and had to get the booster. So that's tricky as a coach. You want your team to play, but those are personal decisions, and so we've navigated this thing, I think, the best we have. We've been able to. We have been fortunate to get all 25 games in, and we're looking forward to this stretch run here. So just thankful that we have our season continuing here past the end of the regular season.
As the number 1 seed. Wake up call with Dan Tortora on site, on location at Cafe Kubal, 343 Fayette Street, Manlius. Plenty of locations all throughout central and upstate New York. We're so happy to be here with you in Manlius. Literally, as I call it, the welcome center of Manlius. As all the roads converge, there's this giant brown building. You can't miss it. Expanded parking lot. It looks like coffee being poured with the different shades that we have here on here. And Cafe Kubal, the home of the only chai that I drink anywhere. And when I'm not here, when I'm down in Disney, and if I have my Cafe Kubal mug or whatever I have, I'm always like, can Matt Goddard just send it down to me? Can you just shoot it down? How about I tell you when I'm going to be in Disney and you send it so that when I get down there, it's waiting for me. Yeah, that's something we got to do. Plan ahead. So, what is it when you're always ready, you don't have to get ready. So, Matt, we got to work on that. I'm going to let you know when I'm traveling and have you send it forward. I'll be in Brooklyn for the ACC tournament, so we'll have to make sure we send something down there for me because there's nothing like Cafe Kubal. I don't care where I go. We have talked about a lot of things over the years. We spent a lot of time today on basketball. We just jumped into hour number 2. I want to shift. Now, I do know there's a lot of different things I want to talk about, but your profile picture, one of your pictures with Amber, you're proudly wearing your Cowboys gear. Now, people know me as a Jaguar. They know I'm a big-time Jaguar fan. I've been a Jaguar fan since they were brought into the world in 1995. But my second favorite team, and the people that know me know this, I'm a Cowboys fan. I have the Cowboys in the NFC. I have the Jaguars in the AFC. I have a giant Cowboys pillow in my guest bedroom, and there's people that sleep in the guest bedroom and want to throw it on the floor. There's people that use it there as a cushion. As long as they can't see it, it's okay. And, there was someone that I had dated back in the day that told me the Cowboys pillow couldn't come out in public, and we're not dating anymore. So, I have to ask you, bring me into the Cowboys lore. Why do you love the Cowboys? What is it about them boys?
Well, most of my family is Cleveland Browns fans.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I have an uncle who's an attorney here in town, and he sat me down when I was real young, probably 7, 8 years old, and he's like, you can either like the Browns or you can like the Cowboys, okay? And it was because the Cowboys were on every week,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go against the grain. I think it was really that simple. So I grew up, the team that I watched, obviously Tom Landry was the coach. Danny White, I thought, was the coolest quarterback because not only did he play quarterback, but he also punted, which is a very unique thing that would never happen anymore.
Syracuse has a kid now. He's a kicker, but he played quarterback at Merritt Island in down in Florida. And it's a friend of mine, Brady Denneberg, got to do a few exclusives with him on his road to choosing Syracuse. He, on one drive, ran the ball a couple times, threw a pass to set up his own field goal.
There you go. That's
Very unique.
You can't even make that up.
No.
So Danny White, Drew Pearson, and then they went through, the worst season in history when Jerry Jones came in, and then, any Cowboys fan at that point in time was, mixed emotions, probably more upset that they got rid of Tom Landry, kind of pushed him out. And then Jimmy Johnson came in. They made the famous trade, the Herschel Walker trade, and that set them up for this run that they had. And then for whatever reason, it just, after the Barry Switzer Super Bowl, it just turned into drama since. So, and the rest is history with that. But anyways, I love watching them. I love, the new stadium is awesome. When they play, even if you're not a Cowboys fan, they have a lot of attention around them. It's like being a Yankees fan, which I am as well. So, but that's some of the background.
And being a Cowboy fan myself, it's when you look at the Dallas Cowboys and you look at kind of where they are right now, I'm happy Dak is there. I'm a big fan of the American Athletic Conference. I was with them before they had a logo, before they had a name. I put my arm around Mike Oresco, the commissioner, and I said, hey, he said, thanks for being with us. And I said, well, from one redheaded stepchild to the other, we got this. And that was a decade ago almost, and which I can't believe. And Mike's work has been incredible, and Chuck and Bernadette and everybody that's there. So when I look at Dallas and I look at what they've done and how they've grown, Tony Pollard from Memphis, I'm a fan of him.
Oh yeah.
I'm a fan of CD Lamb, and there's certain guys that stick out to you. But I was spoiled as a kid. So when I started watching, I started liking football, I was a Dan Marino fan. Number 13, my grandfather's favorite number. Shout out to my grandpa in heaven, Pop Cavino. And so I loved Marino. His first name was my name. Number 13, my grandpa's number. And then my best friend growing up, James, he was always a Cowboys fan. And, you couldn't readily see the Dolphins here and whatever. And I hung out with him and I collected cards. And I got to know the Cowboys so much because of just being around him that I was like, I know like 3 or 4 guys on the Dolphins, but I know all these Cowboys. Jay Novacek, Moose Johnson from Syracuse, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Elvin Harper, Nate Newton, Russell Maryland, and Larry Brown, and the list goes on, and Neon Dion. So I kind of became a fan by accident, and it stuck with me. And then my dad one day, he came home with this wooden frame, and he put it on the ground in my bedroom, and he said, we're going to hang this. And I said, it's not my team. And my dad goes, I don't know. I saw it, and I thought of you. Here's the irony of life. I'm a Marino fan. I'm a Dolphin fan. OJ McDuffie. My dad buys me a Troy Aikman poster. He puts it in my room, leans it against the wall, and he says, I don't know why, but I thought of you when I saw this. He puts that on the wall when I'm a kid, and that wall eventually got painted silver and blue with a Cowboys banner that went around the middle of it. So when I hung that poster, I shook my head and I go, I don't know why my dad would have gotten this for me. And then that wall became all Cowboys after that poster was hung. And to this day, in the room in my room that I grew up in, the Cowboys, everything is still there.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I'm a big Troy Aikman guy.
Such a great player and a good broadcaster.
Yes.
And so, getting to see the Cowboys, where do you think they are right now? And is their main problem Jerry Jones?
I don't know if I would totally blame anything on any one person. I think, if there was ever a way to get the drama to stop, I think that would be a great thing for them. It just seems like every year when they haven't played up to expectations, there's always a cloud around their team. Yeah. But I also think some of it is just because they're the Cowboys. Yeah. And they're always, I don't know if they're America's team or not, I don't get into that debate, but they're certainly one of the most popular, if not the most popular team in the NFL. So naturally, it's like the Yankees in baseball. It's like Notre Dame in football. They're always going to be in the media. They're always going to be talked about. Yeah. And anything that happens negatively within their franchise is going to be amplified more than, let's say, your team, the Jaguars, just because of who they are. So I think that's
Urban Meyer tried to make sure that he got in the news enough.
Yeah, that was definitely true. But no, I think that I don't know enough about the inner workings with a football management. I know when you have an owner or any type of leader that kind of shines as bright as Jerry Jones, I got to think that's got to be a tough way for a coach to operate. Yeah. But, quite frankly, some of the years I think they've been a little overrated. They've got great players in skill positions, but I think they've lacked a great defense until this year. I think their defense played very admirably. I think Dak was not the same player this year, although I love Dak. I think he wasn't the same player after he sustained his calf injury. And he didn't play at a poor level, but he didn't play at the same level he was playing in the first half of the year, in my estimation. And then they had some offensive line injuries and struggles as well. But the thing that I watched with them that is incredibly frustrating as a fan is the amount of mistakes, and this just comes from my basketball coaching philosophy, the amount of mistakes that they make in big spots. Yeah. Most penalized team in the NFL, untimely turnovers, missed field. It's like they do find ways to lose games at times, and that's really hard to watch your team lose. It seems like the same way when they lose.
And the thing is, and this year they didn't have to deal with this, but
and that's not the owner. That's not the owner. That's the way the team plays on the field.
Right. And then, you look at, it's funny. Mike McCarthy's been there for about 5 minutes for a cup of coffee, and people are already talking about firing. What do you think about, as a Cowboy fan and as a head coach, that Mike McCarthy's been there for literally a cup of coffee, and they're already talking about firing, like he's going to get fired and Sean Payton's going to take the job. A year from now, Sean Payton's going to be the head coach after stepping down in New Orleans. What are your thoughts on the fact that from a head coach to a head coach, that McCarthy's era just began, and they're already going, no, they're going to give the job to Sean Payton?
Well, that's the nature of professional sports, unfortunately. Those guys are getting paid a lot of money. So, I've always thought this, if you're going to take that job, it's one of the more prominent jobs in sports. Kind of anything can happen. You know what I mean? So, look I don't like to see anybody get fired as a coach. I'm not saying that I think McCarthy should be fired. Yeah. But he's not going to walk away from this thing if that happens without being paid very handsomely and that type of thing. And he'll be able to get another job if that happens. But I think that it's only his third year. He's going into his third year this year. If you look at the history of his teams, they've always improved.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting them to improve again this year.
Well, you know, and I think people thought Andy Reid was washed up when he got sent out of Philadelphia unceremoniously, and then he went on to win a championship and be consistent. So.
And the toughest thing about pro sports is the unfortunate thing is, as soon as you get to have a regular season year where I think the Cowboys were either 13-5 this year, so you get to have a great regular season. Then after that, it's, you know, you're kind of put in a position where it's all about what you do in the playoffs, which is a crapshoot. You know what I mean? Those games, I mean, how many of those games are decided by one possession? Yeah. So it's like they can go either way. And so I think ultimately, McCarthy's job will be defined by how he does in the postseason, not necessarily the regular season. And obviously, if he doesn't get to the postseason, then I would think if Sean Payton wanted the job, that wouldn't surprise me if they went in that direction.
No, and it's a hire for a team in the spotlight to have a coach who's in the spotlight, a coach who people know, and a coach who kind of stunned the world when he resigned in New Orleans. Like you talked about the playoffs, when I see Niners Cowboys in the playoffs, I go back to guys like Charles Haley, who played on the lines of both teams.
Sure.
I look at punch-down, drag-out matchups. I look at a game that the Cowboys were supposed to win. The Niners played with house money the whole time. And they almost got all the way back to the championship game. And it's funny how 2 years ago they're in the championship, and Jimmy Garoppolo's a savior. 2 years later, the whole year long, they would talk about trade him. The season ends, and they're like, they're going to trade him before March, whatever. And I'm like, this guy brought you almost to another championship, but he's brought you to the brink, or he's brought you there, and they're so quick to get rid of him. What are your thoughts on two things? One, Niners, Cowboys being nostalgic, and two, that, you know, you talk about coaches, and that's the nature of the beast, that a coach could be loved and then hated 5 minutes later, that Jimmy Garoppolo, in the span of 3 years, brought them, then almost brought them, and 2 years ago, everybody loves Jimmy G. 2 years later, everybody forgot about him.
Again, it's all about the postseason, you know? And I think they have a thing where they think their team is good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And most of the time, part of playing quarterback, part of being a head coach, those are probably the two most spotlighted positions within a team, right? In the NFL, maybe the owner is in a spotlight as well. But if an owner or a general manager feels like they've got the talent everywhere else, and the quarterback is the person that's holding them back, you're going to hear those rumors. The other thing is they made a number one draft pick in Trey Lance, and it seems like coaches get a lot of pressure to develop those guys in a year. They can sit them for 1 year, but then the expectation is that they're going to get a chance to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the things that happened with Tua, obviously this Trey Lance situation, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I mean, it's when they draft a quarterback in the first round, the expectation is that guy's going to play sooner rather than later. And that's why I think you get all this maybe sometimes unfair pressure on these quarterbacks that actually win. But, you know, I will say this. From being a coach myself, you don't always know every single thing that goes on within the framework of the team. I know it would be easy to think, like in the NFL, like these insiders find out pretty much everything, and I wouldn't disagree with that. But there still are inner workings within a team with a guy. You don't know a guy's work habits or how people get along with people really, truly, unless you're in those rooms in that building every single day. So there might be other things that maybe we don't know about that might constitute a reason why people want to make changes either at the head coaching or the quarterback position.
Well, and I think case in point of what you just said is Brian Flores, 8-1 in his last 9 games and sent packing. Yeah. How many coaches go 8-1 and get
nobody
fired?
Was expecting that.
No.
Nobody was expecting that.
And to stay with football and to jump for some things that people were expecting or maybe not expecting, a statement made by Bill Hancock, the executive director of the College Football Playoff. Now, I just had Mike Resco on the show. He wrote an open letter to college football from the American Athletic Conference Commissioner, and he came on the show to discuss exactly why he wrote this letter, what the letter had to say, and what he was hoping the College Football Playoff Committee would pay attention to. Well, the committee made a decision that I don't think people are necessarily surprised about, and it keeps the few people at the table that are eating, and it keeps everybody else hungry. Statement made by Bill Hancock, Executive Director of the College Football Playoff, is as follows. And College Football Playoff, obviously abbreviated as CFP. Quote, the CFP Board of Managers met via video conference yesterday, now this is a couple days ago, as a follow-up to a video meeting earlier this week conducted by the CFP Management Committee. The Board of Managers has accepted a recommendation from the Management Committee to continue the current 4-team playoff for the next 4 years, as called for in the CFP's original 12-year plan. At the same time, the board expects the Management Committee to continue its discussions of a new format that would go into effect for the 2026-27 season. Even though the outcome did not lead to a recommendation for an early expansion before the end of the current 12-year contract, the discussions have been helpful and informative. I'm sure they will serve as a useful guide for the Board of Managers and for the Management Committee as we determine what the playoff will look like beginning in the 2026-27 season. I thank the working group for its hard work that resulted in the 12-team proposal and the Management Committee for its thorough and diligent job reviewing it and other possible expansion ideas. This has been a long, careful, and detailed process that involved many people, considering a complex matter. I'm grateful to everyone for their dedication to college football and the detailed and deliberative effort everyone put into the consideration of a different format. I know the 4-team event will continue to be successful. End quote. That's Bill Hancock not saying much, but making a statement of we're keeping the 4-team. 2025-26 was when this thing was agreed upon to last. And when I was told in the past, nothing's going to change. Hey, Dan, 2025-26 is what we have the college football playoff format for after the BCS. Nothing, you're not going to see any change until then. And I said, no, if enough of the quote-unquote Power 5 complain, you will see a change. In the midst of all this, and as we were told in the media, there was like a 4-step process. And they got through step 1 and step 2 and step 3, and then all of a sudden they get to that final stage right around August, September time of this past year where they could have approved a 12-team format or approved an expansion. And Oklahoma and Texas decided to jump ship and start a new conference, or to join the SEC from the Big 12. Everything pauses around winter time, and then you didn't hear anything. So realignment seems to have thrown a monkey wrench in this. I don't know why, because if they expand to 12, that means the SEC is going to get 6 teams in. So what do you think about the fact that we were almost there? We had a working group. We had a ton of different people involved, a ton of different steps. We got to the finish line, and then it looks like Oklahoma and Texas, sparking more realignment, has stalled everything again. And now the college football playoff is saying, nope, 4 spots. That's it for the foreseeable future.
I got to think the bowl games are part of this whole thing. I mean, I watched a documentary on ESPN about a week ago. It was pretty interesting about, I never realized how much money was involved in the bowls.
Oh, yeah.
And I think as long as those bowl games are still prominent, I think it's going to be hard to do an expanded playoff. And it's just my thoughts. You would probably know more than I would. You definitely would know more than I would about that. But I watched it wasn't a 30 for 30, but I watched this college football 150 years documentary. I think it's on ESPN. And they talked about the tradition of the bowl games.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, I think it might have been Ivan Maisel, I don't want to give the wrong name, he said the problem with expanding the playoff are these bowl games. And it made sense to me. You know what I mean?
There's 43 bowl opportunities when you include the 2 games that are in the semifinal of the college football playoff. There's 86 teams of 130 that play. That means that 44 teams don't go to a bowl game, but 86 do. It's the only sport that I know at the collegiate or professional level in America. It is the only anything that more than half go to the postseason. Normally going to the postseason is supposed to be a feat that when you achieve it, you feel like you're part of a few, right? 400 plus schools in Division III, and now the expansion is 60 plus spots, and you have that. That means over 300 teams are hearing no. In college football, almost 90 teams here, yes, and 40 some odd teams here, no. And I said, just to put that into reality here for everybody, when Syracuse doesn't make a bowl game, you're one of 40 teams out of 130 that didn't, but everybody else got, and Rutgers got to do it. There's teams that make it with losing records. All you have to do is be mediocre. Nowhere else in America is mediocrity raised to such of a high level, but that's because there's so many bowls. And what I've learned is they come and go. There's bowl games I looked at. I had a logo from last year, and I'm going, well, why am I not predicting this? Oh, this game doesn't exist anymore. Oh, maybe this one took its place. There's bowls that have been around forever and a day. There's bowls that are in the rotator of the college football playoff, and they're the New Year's Six bowls that rotate in and out of the college football playoff. They're not going anywhere. But to have 43 bowls, I don't want to take it away from anybody, but there's been the Dollar General Bowl. There's the Cheez-It Bowl. There's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, how many Frosted Flakes or Cheez-Its need to be consumed to have this? And how many people need to go to the Dollar General? How many dollar bills? How many, dollar pizza cutters are you buying? How many dollar, plates are you getting for the house? How many dollar cards are you getting for Dad for Father's Day to afford a bowl like that? I don't want to take it away from teams because it's extra weeks of practice as a coach. It gets your young guys involved more, which is great for your future. It gives money to the school, which is great. The kids always get grab bags. The student athletes, they always try to do it up nice. They get to travel somewhere, and a lot of them get to go to a warmer climate in the dead of winter. There's so many positives that come from it. It gives fans another game to go to. But at the same time, it dilutes the pool so much that, do I pay attention to the bowl games? Yeah, I'm a broadcaster. Did I spend an entire show with Papa Joe? Shout out to my guy PJ. Did we literally, as one of the few people in America, did we predict every single bowl game? We predicted 43 bowl games in one show. At one point, I don't know. You get into the predictions, and after an hour and a half, you're just like, oh my Lord, there's 15 more games to do. We did it. And I love it as a fan. I love it as a fan that there's something to do from December 17th all the way to January 6th. It's a month of football extra. But at the same time, if there's a college football playoff that decides a champion, then what are you championing? What are you the champion of if you win a bowl game in Pasadena in the middle of December?
Yeah, I think all those things are good points, Dan. I just think those things have been ingrained in football lore, college football lore, for so long. It's a tribute to how hard it is to get rid of them, because conventional wisdom would say, look at the NCAA basketball tournament and how big of an event that is.
Yeah.
Why can't we at some level try to create that with college football? Which I'm guessing if they're not doing it, it's got to be because there's still some sort of value, monetary value, with these bowl games that seem insignificant to us because you can go and you're mediocre, but there's got to be some value there why they're not getting rid of them. I can't think of any other reason why they wouldn't do.
It's money. It's sponsorships. It's cities. It's arenas. Listen, if you're an arena, just like getting an Elton John concert or a Billy Joel concert or Journey or whatever, when you have an arena and every single year, I got an event that I'm going to sell at least 15,000, 20,000 tickets for, then 60,000 tickets for, 40,000 tickets for, that's a moneymaker. You want to keep it. If you're a sponsor, hey, every single year I got this. I get to put my name on it and it's mine. And these sponsors have actually bought even more of it. Like Capital One might have a bowl game, and then they might have the Capital One Bowl Week brought to you by Capital One New Year's Six. So when you look at sponsorships and you look at that money, you look at exposure, you look at cities and arenas, there's a reason why you keep it going. For the players, it's great. But if I'm 6-6, I feel like you just gave me a trophy for being 15th place in my soccer tournament, and I don't want that. When I won first place in my science fair, it was because there was one first place. When I did my out in Marcellus, when I had my last year that we could be 14, 15 years old, last year that we could be before becoming a coach, 14-15 was the cutoff to be in this summer league for basketball. My buddy James and I did it years in a row. We were not on the same team ever, and we played indoor-outdoor games. In the playoffs, we had to play indoor games, outdoor games. Outdoor baskets, totally different than indoor baskets. They feel different. They bounce different. It's just different. And not only did my team win the championship that season, our final season that we could do it, but I won the MVP. They didn't give an MVP trophy to everybody. There was one kid who was the MVP of the playoffs. That was me. There was one team that won the playoffs. That was me. And I have a trophy of us winning the playoffs, and I have the trophy that looks exactly the same for participating. Where do you think the participation trophy is? I don't know. It's somewhere hidden in my house because I don't care about it, but the championship one is in my studio right behind me. Because it doesn't matter to be mediocre and get a trophy. I don't want. If my kids if I have kids someday, God willing, and they get a trophy for being, 5th place in the soccer tournament, I'm throwing it out. Because I just don't. I think if you promote mediocrity, then what's to say when they're in school that they don't think a C is good enough? And what are we saying about business when they don't think that it's important to run a good business or to build, relationships? Or why do we think that these people aren't going to think everything's going to be handed to them if there's no establishment that hard work provides? You might work really hard and lose the tournament, like
Right.
you said. You might work really hard and lose a game. What are we teaching people when hard work, effort, enthusiasm, determination, faith, and dedication to something, if you give your all and you win, that everybody else gets treated the same? The NBA playoffs has one champion. The NFL, they didn't give an award to Cincinnati and said, thanks for being here at the Super Bowl. That's not life in real life. And I feel like if you promote it that way, and college football does to an extent with 6-6 and 5-7, if you promote mediocrity as success, then what is success?
Well, I think you make a lot of good points. Here's the only thing I would say. I got a 7-year-old that enjoys. She's just getting into sports, and for them, the tangible result thing is all they see because their minds don't work the way yet of intangible results. So the look on her face when she gets a trophy, a second or third place trophy, or a participation trophy, I can see some value in that, or a gift to take home. Like when I run a basketball camp, we don't do an MVP of the week or anything like that, but I try to make sure kids go home with something to remember the camp by. Because I think a big part of development is having fun and having a memorable experience. So and to get kids continuing to play sports, I think early on, it's about their friendships. It's about, like my daughter goes to these gymnastics meets and stays overnight, and her swimming in the swimming pool with her friends, that's a big part of her liking gymnastics. That's the way their minds work, So I think at that age, I think I can see some value in participation. As you get older and things become a little bit more about winning and losing, I can see your point on that.
Well, and my thing is, listen, as a kid, when they gave us all a medal that said, hey, thanks for being a part of it. They gave us a medal and they gave us a board that you could sign. But one team got a trophy. And it hurt when you didn't win. And it made me want to come back next year, and it made me want to win. It made me want to come back and work harder. That's what I'm saying. Like as a kid, to the point of your daughter, I had that.
Yeah.
We all got a medal. But of the 12 medals that I got for participating and my championship trophy, what's in my studio? My championship trophy's in my studio.
I think what you're saying, I don't disagree with, but I can see some value in both.
And I think as a kid you should. Everybody got a board, everybody got a medal, but one team got the trophy, which I think it plays to both of our points. There was something to seek, there was something to fight for, but nobody left. Your daughter wouldn't leave feeling like, oh, I wasn't here. Like I always have a memory of every tournament and every camp and everything I've been to because we got this signed or we got this board or the coaches wrote everybody a letter and told us what we could work on. We all each had something together to make us a community and a group.
Yeah.
And then there was, for the team that did the best, there was that one thing.
Yeah.
The balance of both worlds.
Yes.
And listen, I'm not against having a bowl, having the bowl games. I like the bowl games. It's hard to promote 5-7, 6-6. Here's the other part of it. Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm not kidding about this, Jimmy Kimmel, I thought it was a joke. He had a bowl game this year.
Yes.
The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. And I thought to myself, well, heck, I joked about this before, but when I got money like that, why not the Wake Up Call Bowl? I don't want to call it my name because I don't have an ego. I would rather just call it the Wake Up Call Bowl or the Central New York Bowl, the Central New York Snow Bowl. But it's just, to me, I don't know, like when I saw that, I was like, you put your name on it? So like anybody can just buy the Jason Leone Bowl, the Dan Tortora Bowl. That to me seemed weird, and it seemed strange to have something like that.
Probably cost him a pretty penny to have his own bowl, I'll tell you that. Not everybody can probably do that.
Or, it's in LA. Yeah. He works for Disney.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, like, maybe he paid a portion of it, but maybe not all of it. But there's an idea for a bowl, and it has to do with the NFL. And I thought of this years ago, and I just saw somebody post about it, and I was like, wow, it's cool to see somebody else, feel this way. But I'm not going to say that I haven't thought this for years. And that is, get rid of the Pro Bowl, because number one, who watches it? Who cares about it? It's whatever. I mean, it's not even a game. It's not even like two-hand touch. This is what I think they should do. It gets the fans involved. It gets the teams involved. It gets you an extra game like a bowl game. But somebody put this out recently, and I was like, man, this has been my idea for years, so of course I approve of this random person that put it out. Have that week before the championship game, before the Super Bowl. I called it the Toilet Bowl. But have it be the two worst teams in the NFL fighting for the number one pick. Then there's value. Have the Lions and the Jaguars fight for the number one pick. How cool would it be? The fans get another game. There's value within it. And it gives you something where there's actual hitting. It's an actual game. And it gives an extra game, like a playoff game. It gives an extra game to a team that you wouldn't think is going to get an 18th game.
Devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Most of the time, the worst team in the league, they're firing their coach, so they're getting behind in hiring the next coach based on all this head coaching interviewing process that I follow in the NFL. So that would be the only thing. I think that in theory the idea is good, Dan, but I just.
Can I devil's advocate your devil's advocate?
Yeah, of course. It's your show. You can do anything you want.
I will devil's advocate your devil's advocate of an NFL team usually firing their coach in that situation. How many college football teams play bowl games without their head coach? Either by fired or by a coach leaving.
You've got a lot on the line there for the number one pick, though. So you're going to keep a coach just to play that game, or you're going to have assistant coach that game, and the number one pick is on the line.
Or if you're the
what if Peyton Manning is the number one pick, or somebody like that's like a LeBron James type can't miss number one pick, and they miss out on it because they lose the game.
Well, I would say if you're Jacksonville, it doesn't matter, because though they fired their coach early on and had plenty of time to be prepared, they still waited until after other teams to get it done. By Black Monday, they should have had a head coach, because they had more than enough time. When you get a head start, you don't let people catch up to you. And Jacksonville did that. We'll take a step aside. We'll come back. Jason Leone, myself, Dan Tortora. We're live from Cafe Kubal. 343 Fayette Street, Manliius is the location we're at this time. You can go all throughout central and upstate New York to enjoy Cafe Kubal. Fill your cup up right with local right here in central and upstate New York. We'll take a step aside. And then the Oswego State Lakers men's basketball head coach and I will tell you why you should pack the Zeal this weekend. And we're going to have some fun in rapid fire. We'll talk with you right after this. Thank you so much for being here inside a Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard. Shepherd, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market today and every Tuesday through Sunday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They make it easy for you with their drive-through window. You can grab your food and go. Everything's on the app. Go to the Google Play or Apple App Store, download the Millhouse Market app. There's a directional map there from anywhere you are, so you can order your food, see all the ingredients, look at the entire menu, and get directions from your location right to the Millhouse Market. So simple, so easy, and right here for us. With sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. They're ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds. With their general store with local products from local companies, as well as their bistro menu that changes every single week, and their indoor dining to go with their drive-thru, the Millhouse Market is a multiple different experience place right there for you, right off the highway on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. Worth the drive every time. Back here inside a Cafe Kubal with my guy Jason Leone. And I know you're busy. I know that you have your season, but you always find time for me. And so before I go anywhere with this, now I want you to coach until you're like 87 years old. But when you decide that you're set, I think I should make it a more frequent thing to bring you out to places. But Jason, I appreciate the fact that above all things, and I feel like this needs to be said because people think things all the time, but I think you need to say it. Not only do I appreciate the fact that you've always been good to me, that you've welcomed me with open arms to Oswego, be it on campus or in a conversation, that you've been devout in coming on the show no matter how busy you get, and that mid-season, before the season, after the season, you take time. So I know you work hard. I know you don't cut corners. But you never, ever, ever say you're too busy to be a part of this. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thanks, Dan. You know, I feel the same way about you. You do a great job, and to see where your show has gone in 10 years is nothing short of incredible. So you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Well, thank you. And it's fun to see a coach be so successful. And like I've told you before, and I still believe this in Oswego State, I hope you're listening, I think they got a steal with you. And I'm just very thankful that you're here and that you've decided to build here, because it does a lot for our community. And I think people need to know that it's not every day you find a Jason Leone. So when you find him, you got to keep him. And I'm very, very thankful that not too far away from where we're sitting right now, we have you sitting there coaching a team that's in our community, and it says a lot about Oswego. It says a lot about who they go after, and it says a lot about you that you've decided to be a part of this community that you love so much and to continue to give back to it. So thank you for the fact that you've stuck around, because I think you're talented enough to go anywhere in the country, and I'm happy that you're here.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. So it's, family's important, and friends are important, and being at a place where we can win is important, and we've gotten all three things here, and really enjoy everything that we're doing at our place. And hopefully we can keep it going. Winning's not easy, as you know, and it's not just the winning, but the people we're turning out there is it makes me really feel really fortunate for the job that I have.
You've won a lot, but the success stories that I'm sure matter more to you are the lives that you feel you've helped. Who are some of those stories, those people that you look back upon and say, hey, win, lose, or draw, I'm so happy I got to coach this kid?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be fair to mention individual guys, Dan, but I just, one of the things that happens in coaching, I think a lot of coaches remember maybe some of the players that they have that maybe came from some less fortunate backgrounds.
Yeah.
I've certainly had my fair share of players that maybe weren't the best students or maybe had a story or two about the environment they grew up in that maybe could have given them a lot of reasons to not be successful, not graduate from college. So many coaches have those types of stories. So when I've been able to help people that help young men that have been able to overcome some natural adversities in life to get a college degree and play college basketball in a good program like ours, those are a lot of the memorable stories.
Yeah.
Staying in touch with my players after graduation, that's also a very positive part of of what I do. And it's just now I'm getting to an age where my players have families and children of their own, and so which makes you start to feel like you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
So those are really important things. And then the people that I've had a chance to meet and work with along the way that maybe aren't basketball people. I've got some great friends on our campus, not just people that work in athletics, but people. It was funny. I had an old associate financial aid director of mine that doesn't live in Oswego anymore. She came back just to watch our team play this last weekend and surprised me. And she's a woman that we worked very closely together because she was the person that would, kind of deal with the students that I had that were maybe less fortunate financial situations and helping getting them through school from a financial aid perspective. So those are the things that you really remember. Obviously the winning you remember too, but it's the people that you help along the way. You're certainly not always doing coaching, especially at this level.
Yeah.
For the money, it's more about the impactfulness that you can have from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's great, when you have that. And I think as a coach too, when you start seeing some of your former players coach, and to see that evolve, but it's just fun. It's fun to be a part of our world. It's fun to be a part of sports. It's where strangers still talk to each other. I tell people this all the time. You could be in a bar watching a Yankee game, and you say something about Judge, and the guy next to you goes, I was thinking that. And then you go, oh, yeah, cool, man. Have a great day. Yeah, you too. And then later on in the game, bottom of the ninth, you say something, and then he goes, yeah, you know what? I thought about that. Then he moves a little bit closer, moves down the row, and he starts talking to you about it. He says, how long have you been a Yankee fan? I'm Bob. Well, I'm Steve. Nice to meet you. And then 4 years down the road, he's the best man at your wedding. That's what sports does. How many places can bring people together so quickly, so easily? And I tell people this all the time. If the world could take a page out of the book of the Olympics, the entire world, countries all over the world can come together to compete, but we can't come together to help each other. It's amazing how sports is the perfect huddle. It's a huddle of different colors, different orientations, different backgrounds, different money, different religions. And we can all meet in that huddle and try to play together to win a game. But we can't meet in that huddle at a town hall to win a game, the game of life. And I just feel like if we paid more attention to sports and let sports drive it, that's why my quote for Wake Up Call, the tagline's always been where sports meets life. If we could take a page out of the book of sports, how much this world could change in an instant. Because when you're on a team, nothing matters except for your brothers and your sisters next to you and what you're capable of doing together instead of apart.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's funny. I walk in like in another month, I'll go to the Division I Final Four. We have our coaches convention there, and
Yeah.
inevitably I'll run into somebody that I would never kind of run into or rub elbows with. And one year, I won't mention who, but I just happened to be at an airport, and I met a pretty famous coach, and we happened to be sitting next to each other, and we had a 2-hour conversation. And I never kept in touch, and he didn't keep in touch with me, but he was a pretty prominent Division I head coach, and we sat on an airplane together and just talked about the difference in levels, and he was engaging and asked me questions about Division III, and obviously I had a lot of questions about Division I for him, and it was, to your point, it brings, there's still commonalities. No matter what you do. Yeah, if you're a coach, you're a coach. It doesn't matter what level. And anyways, it's a really fun profession in that way.
Yeah.
About how people come together.
It's a beautiful thing. And speaking of being here together, we are now in that portion of the show called Rapid Fire. Done it for years on Wake Up Call, and we always have some fun talking about a little bit of everything. Jason and I do it seamlessly, naturally, to talk about a bunch of different stuff, not just basketball, here with the head coach of the Oswego State Lakers men's basketball team, getting ready to pack the zeal this weekend, and hopefully for weekends to come as well. We're going to jump into rapid fire, a couple questions apiece. Coach, I'm going to let you go first. Rapid fire, for those of you that don't know, we can ask each other anything about anything. There is no prior knowledge of what the question's going to be or the answer. None of this is staged. It is real life. And we have to answer the question because we're live on audio and video all over the world. So if I sit here like a deer in headlights, I still have to answer the question. Go ahead, Coach.
What's the lowest score you've ever had in golf?
Oh, wow. 100? No, I will say I don't know what the lowest score is I've ever had by myself. Probably not good. But I haven't golfed in and I'm not kidding when I say it's been like 15 years at least. And I went and I did the Marywood Golf Tournament with Enrico Mastriani, and I was on his team. And I was responsible for the only birdie that we had as captain and crew, and I helped set up 2 pars. And the first drive that I had of the entire day, I just let it go. And all I said to God was, I said, hey, I know I haven't done this in a while. I'm not saying I have to be great, but can I please just not embarrass myself today?
It's hard to hit on that first tee when everybody's watching.
And I hit it well. And then there was one tee where it's like if you got it on the green, then you got put in this raffle.
Yep.
And it was 187 yards or something like that. I went up there, and I went with my driver. I didn't take an iron or anything.
A driver from 118 yards?
And then 187. But this is the thing. But I did that because I said to myself, I go, there's no way. There's no way because I can putt. I'm a short game, but when it comes to driving the ball, it's something that I've had to work on. I can get us there. I can close. I'm the Mariano Rivera of the team, but not as good as him by any stretch of the imagination. I'm like Mariano's younger brother. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take the driver and I'm going to hit it because who cares? I hit this thing. Not only does it go to the green, it flies past the green, and I go, this is the time when I go over 200 yards from the tee. This is when I do it, when I didn't have to do it. So it's all good. It was a good shot. Could have been better on another hole. But I think after doing that, I was like, wow, I haven't played this game in such a long time, and I can play. So I don't know what my lowest score is. I know that my best game was my most recent game, and if your best is your most current, then I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
So I'll say that.
Best college football game you've ever been to in person?
Oh, boy. It's a good question. I would have to say...
Because you know I'm a big college football fan.
Yeah, and there's a lot of games that I went at with Syracuse, but I'm going to go in my professional career, and I'm going to say probably one of the moments where I really had like a heart-to-heart with myself was Cincinnati's American Athletic Championship game this past season that put them in the college football playoff when they played Houston. The atmosphere in Cincinnati is incredible. The Bearcats are incredible. Am I heartbroken that they're not going to be in the American because I cover the American so closely and I've covered Luke Fickell since he got there? Yes. Will I still do everything in my power to keep that connection? I will. And Anthony DeFino from Central New York, shout out to you, brother. He's on the staff in Cincinnati. But I went out to this game, and I've been to the American Athletic Championship before, but I had to go to this game because I wanted Cincinnati to get in. I wanted the American to get what they had earned. I wanted Cincinnati to get what they had earned, and I said, you know what, I believe in them. I want to be there. I was going to be there no matter what, but there was more on top of it this year. There was whipped cream on the Sunday. So I showed up, never been to Cincinnati. And I went to Nippert Stadium, and I'm sitting there, and I was buying some American athletic merchandise because you can never find anything with the A on it, and I wanted to give back. So I'm buying some merchandise, and I hear this drum, boom, dum, dum, and you hear this, hey, in the background, and you just hear this, like, you hear this thing, and it's getting closer and closer, and it's like this dun, 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 scream. Dun, 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 scream. And it's perfect. It is perfect. It's this beat that you didn't know you loved till you heard it. And I turn around, and I see the band, and they're just two, going around the whole stadium. And they're chanting, and the fans know the song, and they're chanting, and everybody's lined up on this side, lined up on that side, people that know it, people that don't know it, and they're watching this thing, and they come around the arena, and then they go down into their spot, and I went, we don't have anything like that here. And then I watched the game, and then after the game, I went and I stood, yep. So then I went and I watched, after watching that, apparently I screamed too loud, but after the game, I went down to the field, and I stood on the field, and I went and interviewed Luke Fickell, and then I came back to the field, and I grabbed some of the confetti that was there, and I still have it, and then I put my hand on the field and felt the turf, and there was just something about the Cincinnati, taking a picture with that logo, taking a picture with the AAC champions behind us, and just being a part of the whole moment. And then after everything I had already done, I went, and everybody had pretty much left the arena except for some workers and whatnot, and I sat in the bleachers, and I just sat there in the cold, and I looked out onto the field, and I looked up in the sky, and I just said to myself, you worked really hard to get here. I don't want you to leave the stadium until you thank God and you appreciate this moment. So one of my movie moments in life was sitting there going, some people thought you were never going to get in that press box, that you didn't deserve it. And now you're sitting in the bleachers because you chose to, because God and you worked your butt off to get in that press box. So now you sit in the bleachers if you choose to sit there, but you've earned the right to sit in the press box. That meant a lot to me.
That's great, man. It's a great story. I never knew that.
Yeah, so that just happened. But so my questions for you, my first question for you is, because you're such a big college football fan, what is your favorite college football game ever?
Oh boy. I was at the game when Syracuse beat Nebraska in 1985, I want to say it was, 86. That was one of them. And then the West Virginia game when Michael Owens ran the two-point conversion into the end zone in 87 when they went undefeated. Yeah. Those are probably my two favorite.
And you were at the Nebraska game. Bring me into that. What was that? That was 2 years before I was born.
Well, I'll never forget, we were having dinner as a family at my house on the west side of Syracuse, and my grandfather was a police officer, and he would work in the horse trailer outside the front of the Carrier Dome when they had that there. So I'd go every week with him and just hang out there and just watch him work, and I used to like the horses and all that stuff, so I'd hang out, and then the games would start at 2:30 then, because there wasn't much TV coverage. So then we'd go in right at 2:30 and we'd sit in the same seats and we'd go to the game. It's something I did with him a lot. Well, the next week, during this year, Nebraska was coming in. They were number 1 in the country. Tom Osborne. They were, it was an unbelievable home game for Syracuse to have. And my grandfather wasn't going to be able to go into the game because of the crowd and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And my dad came to me on Friday night. He said, guess what? I have 2 tickets to the game. So I was so excited. So I went to the game, and then they pulled off an incredible upset. They scored 17-9. Todd Norley had an incredible 48-yard touchdown pass to Mike Ciano that gave Syracuse the lead, and it was probably during that time one of the best victories in the history of the school. And then
still is, yeah.
Yeah, and then the '87 season when they were undefeated.
Rob Drummond season.
Yeah, so they went all the way down the field. Major Harris was the quarterback for West Virginia. They played a great game, and they were actually undefeated the year after. So they were building something themselves. Yeah. Don Nealon was the legendary coach there. Syracuse drove all the way down and scored the touchdown, and there was ties back then. And everybody was like, go for it, so they could secure the undefeated season. And Coach Mack went for it, and they ran option play to the wide side, flipped it to Michael Owens. He went in and scored, and then the place was pandemonium. You can still YouTube Tim Brando. They came into the game on ESPN and showed the last drive. And Tim Brando was the studio host then. So pretty cool thing if you ever want to YouTube and see the end of that game.
Yeah, and a beautiful, beautiful moment in the history. And I've challenged Dino to do it, to go for the win, go for those 2-point conversions, because back then it was like Syracuse was willing to lose because they weren't willing to tie or go to overtime. They wanted to win, or it was either win or not. And some teams get criticized for going for a 2-point conversion and losing a game by 1, but I commend a team that believes they can do it.
Yeah.
My second question for you is, what toy, now that you have 2 daughters, can you remember a toy when you were a kid that was like your favorite thing to play with?
Oh man, I was into basketball at a pretty young age. I enjoyed going. I would play a lot, even when I was like 7 years old. Okay. So I don't know if there was.
That's when I started at 7.
I wasn't a big video game guy. Never got into that. I was really into basketball all the way through. So I don't have a more exciting answer than that. But that was probably my favorite thing to do. My grandparents had every Italian turns their garage into a separate room in the house. So we had a carpeted garage over there with a hoop, and I'd go over there and play in the garage, and I'd go down to Sunnycrest Park and play a lot. And then my dad eventually put a hoop in our own driveway, and I would play out there quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's funny because I started to play organized at 7. My first memory that I have of basketball was when I was 3, and they made me that little blow-up pool that had a blow-up hoop, and I remember picking up a blow-up basketball, and one of my favorite basketballs to play with and keep in my house was my blow-up basketball.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that, because it was in my life for a very long time as well, from the beginning.
Yep.
So with that being said, Jason, Leone, myself, Dan Tortora, last note here from Cafe Kubal: why should people pack the Zeal this weekend?
Well, I think it's a great brand of basketball. We got a great team this year. If anybody wants to just support a local team that is nationally ranked, has done, just had a wonderful season, and wants to see 3 other good teams play as well. This isn't like a one-trick pony here. Like our opponent is going to be a really good team. We'll find out who that's going to be about 9 o'clock tonight. And there'll be 2 great games there Friday night. It's a great opportunity if you're a parent with a child that's just getting into basketball and you want to show them, what a good basketball game looks like. I know it's a lot of fun going up to the Dome and watching Syracuse and watching Lemoyne play. I'm fans of both teams and enjoy going up to those games as well. But this is something where we're going to be home, and it's a very meaningful playoff type atmosphere, and I think people are going to show up and support our team, which I'm really excited about.
Jason Leone, Oswego State Lakers men's basketball head coach, myself, Dan Tortora of Wake Up Call. from inside of Cafe Kubal, and as always, inside the Cafe Kubal studios. I wish you all a fantastic day, and I want to give a proud thanks to everybody that's watched and listened on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /WakeUpCallDT, and of course on WakeUpCallDT.com, and shared on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. Once the shows go live, you can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, MixLR, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And of course, a special and proud thanks to Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avocoles, as well as Honda City of Liverpool, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, the Millhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Chick-fil-A Clay, the Mother's Cupboard, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and of course, we are the exclusive, proud multimedia marketing partner of Lemoyne, Marywood, and Bryan and Stratton here in Syracuse. We hope you have a fantastic day. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And of course, this weekend, you know where to be. The green behind us is ceremonious and foreshadowing of where you need to be in supporting Oswego. Pack the zeal and continue to support a fantastic season that I hope continues to keep on giving. Jason, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan. It's wonderful to see you again.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And as always, folks, as you know,